This is the best moments of the BBQ Central Show in 10 minutes or less. Ever wish you could re-listen to your favorite interview or segment? Do you enjoy hearing older shows for the first time in years? Then the best moments of the BBQ Central Show in 10 minutes or less is just what you need. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the best moments of the BBQ Central Show in 10 minutes or less. Today's show is from October the 6th, 2010. First segment, creator of the Fast Eddy line of cookers, Mr. Fast Eddy Maurin. The second segment, Larry Hill, the original founder of PelletHeads.com. While Larry is no longer with us, history is going to show Larry as a significant contributor to the world of backyard grilling and barbecue, as well as the competition world itself. Let's get to it. Here is Greg with his guests from October the 6th, 2010.
So let's go ahead and race over to the hotline. The creator of the FE line of cookers, pitmaster of Fast Eddy's Barbecue, friend of the show, Ed Maurin, joining us. Eddy, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Greg, great to be with you tonight. Things sounding pretty good after the American Royal, huh?
Well, it's always good to have the winners of each portion of that competition jump right on the show and talk about it. And from all accounts, I mean, I've talked with Mike Davis over the years, and he really seems, unless I'm completely snowed, Eddy, you would probably see him a lot more than me, obviously. I mean, he really one of the good guys in barbecue?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Mike definitely is. You know, he's a barbecue man clear to the bone. Anybody that runs up and down the highway and goes cooks as much as he does, you know, it's amazing that people are out there doing this and doing what they love for a living.
Now, I was talking to him this last hour, and you know, he's made a pit change. He's switched out of that Jamie Gear pit that Johnny Trigg had, you know, a long time ago. And, of course, between the two of them, they probably got 50 billion grand championships sitting on that pit. But he's decided to go to the Yoder's pit. Have you ever seen, you know, teams that have had a lot of success with a pit just go ahead and make a wholesale change like that? What do you think about that?
Oh, I think he probably made a change for the better. I mean, I think once he got on that Yoder pit, I think his I've been kind of watching the scores out there, and I think he's improved, actually. You know, he's working less. He said himself that, you know, he's burning about half the amount of fuel, and it's that much more efficient. And Mike I think his scores have improved. If you look when he finally went onto that Yoder full time, I think you're going to, if you go back and track what he's done, I think you've seen there's a great improvement in him.
He said an interesting comment last hour was the fact that he thought the Yoder was almost like a pellet cooker. And I've heard this now almost recurring more and more as I talk with the pitmasters. There seems to be this wanting to get something that's producing a flavor profile like a pellet cooker or functioning and as efficient as a pellet cooker. What do you make of all this?
I'm loving it, as you can imagine. I mean, man, you should have been with me in 1990 when I started cooking on pellets and everybody made fun of this stuff. And really within the last, probably the last 10 years, it finally has really kind of started on. You know, down at the American Royal, there were so many different pellet grill companies down there. You seen Heartland was out there with the Pellet Heads guys. Woodmaster, which is a brand new group that's just come on board, was out there with the Pellet Heads group. You had a Traeger dealer inside. You had the Green Mountain distributor inside. You had Yoder's now building some pellet grills also. I mean, look, the footprint of barbecue is changing. And I don't say it's going to, get away from, charcoal and wood and stuff, but technology's catching up. This is just like the computer age when it come along, and I think it's just phenomenal. The 3 of the top 6 teams in the Open were using my pits or part of my pits down there. 3 of the teams that won categories in the Invitational, we wrote checks to for their first place. Cook Shack had $100 for first place if you had an FEC product with you. So 3 of the 4 categories we wrote checks on. So, I mean, when you start sitting back and looking the footprint of barbecue, it's coming.
Now, Ed, before we get into what happened this past weekend a little bit more in depth, we're almost, believe it or not, 4 years removed, coming up on the anniversary of the Brisket Roundtable. Now, be honest, how often are you stopped in the street for autographs and getting adulation heaped on you by the barbecue fans who really loved that episode?
I do hear about it. And it was, that was a great roundtable. There's some unbelievable information there, and that same information still used to this day. And we were talking. One of the top-notch teams come down and wanted to taste my brisket at the open, and we're standing there tasting each other's brisket, and this particular individual had one of those $130 Wagyu briskets, and I had my choice or better that was 38 days aged out, and you couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah, I mean, that was like my next question, Ed, was, the thing that really strikes me about that particular roundtable is the fact that during the open, I asked everybody about this Kobe beef, and I think you said you knew a rancher who was raising Wagyu cattle at that point, but everyone except for Jim Minion kind of passed it off as something that was really not worth the money, or that you could do just as good with something of a lesser expensive cut. Fast forward 4 years, Wagyu beef has really gained a lot of steam in the competition scene. You look back, did you ever foresee that there would be this kind of run or success for this kind of cut of beef in competition barbecue?
Well, I guess when you really start looking at the guys that are using it, are the guys that are really cooking hot and fast, okay? And that much more marbling in it's given them a break to be able to do that, I guess. Probably benefits them. But the fella who's leading points in brisket right now, I shouldn't probably be saying much, but
go ahead. Nobody's listening.
I think he's getting a giggle out of it.
So, we're talking with Fast Eddy Maurin, by the way, and his website, pelletcooker.com, will actually show you the pellet grill, but you can also link over to the Cook Shack site if you're interested in the FE cookers that he has available for sale. Pelletcooker.com is the website. Another American Royal comes and goes. Fast Eddy's barbecue finished 91st overall in the open portion of the contest, so you get a top 10 call with your 9th place finish in chicken. You've been at this a long time now, Ed. You were, admittedly chasing money around, in the younger days for competition barbecue, flying over Hell's Half Acre and taking your meat with you and all that fun stuff. Do you still get the same excitement when you hit the stage to take that walk as you did when you first got into this?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely great to get a recognition. I mean, they even had my picture on the T-shirts down there at the Royal. I'd like to thank them for doing that. It was amazing, to get to go up there and get a walk. And my chicken hasn't been that solid. That's a chicken recipe I've been dead set on sticking with for quite some time. I won't buy into cooking chicken in a pan. And that was cooked right on the grill, man. So, and it had a great flavor to it. I was real happy with it, to get that kind of call. But, I was disappointed in myself because I blew my pork. I overcooked it. I got busy talking to some people and doing some stuff and forgot about the pork being on the pit and getting it off. And then I tried to salvage it on my turn in, and it just wasn't gonna make it. So, if I'd have had a decent pork call, I was looking at the top 10 or top 20 at the worst, the way it was, if I'd have had just a 160 in pork. But that's just, the way it goes. I was really shooting to win the Legends deal down there, finished third at that. I would have liked to have won the Legends thing because that was my 21st year at cooking the Royal.
I was going to say, you've been down there for quite a while, but you were competing at it at first just as the competitor to win, and then at some point you decided to get into the pit making business, and you said in past interviews at that point, you wanted to make it more about the customer, make sure they were successful. Has this event now, that being the Royal, become more of a business expo for you with the cookers, or are you still able to separate out the business side and the cooking side?
Oh, it's all business pretty much, Greg. I mean, it's the never-ending trade show. You go do a trade show like Chicago or Florida or California, and the show floor is only open from like 11 to 5, or 10 to 5. You're out there 6 or 7 hours on your feet, talking and shaking hands and talking with people. At the American Royal, it's like it never ends. I'll tell you, one little story. It's 10 o'clock Friday night, and everybody had left, and I went in to take a shower, and I just got undressed to get in the shower, and the coach is rocking. I go, what in the world's a storm come up or something? Because I got all the awnings and stuff out. So I get dressed and I go outside. And about that time, some people had jumped off the back of the coach. Some drunks had jumped onto the coach. And then here come Richard McPeak walking down the aisle. I end up standing outside talking to him for another 30 minutes. So by the time I get to bed, it's 11:30. It's there's always somebody to talk to, always some kind of networking going on to do constantly. And that starts Thursday morning, and it doesn't end till I leave there on Sunday afternoon.
To put in your request for a future show, please contact John Solberg via email at johnjon@thebbqcentralshow.com.
My final guest tonight founded what has turned into become the authority when it comes to all things regarding pellet cook portion. Sorry, I almost coughed. I had to hit the cough button. When it comes to all things regarding the pellet cooker portion of the industry, through their forum, they actually fielded a team this past weekend at the American Royal Invitational and actually the Open, and walked away with a third place overall, which is absolutely amazing. So let's go ahead and race over to the hotline where we find administrator of pelletheads.com, Larry Hill, joining us here on the show. Larry, how are you tonight, buddy?
Hi, Greg. How are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fabulous, Larry. Thanks for coming on the show tonight, making time for it. First off, Larry, I want to make a special mention on this. You know, you're the first site administrator to ever actually come on the show, so I want to thank you for doing it. But is there any reason that you could think of why some of the other site administrators out there would want to pass on an opportunity to come and promote their site?
Why? All I could say is that it's their misconception of new media.
It's got to be, Larry. All right, so as I mentioned, pelletheads.com is really the premier website and forum when it comes to anything that has to do with pellet cookers. You've done a great job getting the site and attracting a lot of great folks who add a lot of great content. So what made you want to get into this whole deal? And by that, I mean the internet forum sector.
Well, I guess I have to go back to when I first started with pellet cookers. I bought my first Traeger about 1970, about 19, oh no, I can't say that. It's about 2004. And I basically bought it, and the guy knew nothing about it. He said, I cook pizzas on it. So I gave him my $1,500 and went home and started cooking with briskets and pork shoulder and ribs. And I just decided that soon I became a Traeger dealer, and I wanted to really have a forum that people wouldn't be in the same boat that I was when I first started, and that was that you have no clue about how to work these fantastic machines. So I started pelletheads.com with the intention that we would have no sales. It would be a non-commercial site. I would support it 100% myself, and that's where it's grown. I think our big difference between most other forums that we have is content.
What drew you to pellets? There's a lot of different cookers out there. A lot of people love stick burners. A lot of people like the charcoal-driven cookers that you can add wood chunks to for flavor. And then, of course, there's the pellet heads. What in particular really excited you about the pellets versus the other fuels of cooking?
Oh, the first time I cooked on one, I realized right then and there that it was the only way to go. The food that came off was just above anything I'd ever cooked before, and that's what made me continue to want to cook. The more I cooked, the better I got at it, and soon I started to realize that the time and time again, I would cook the gas cooker against my pellet cookers, and even using the same rubs and the same flavors, the pellet cookers just come out with a complete enhancement because you're cooking with 100% wood. And this goes clear back to the Stone Age.
Now, I'm a site administrator myself, Larry. By the way, we're talking with Larry Hill, site administrator of pelletheads.com. I'm a site administrator myself. I know what it's like trying to get the site out of the water and then, finally realizing that it's growing organically is really a great milestone to hit. What have been some of the biggest challenges you have faced keeping the forum up and also making sure that it stays within that vision you have set for it?
Well, being an administrator, as you are, you know the challenges, but the rest of the public really probably doesn't see them. I've been taken down by spammers and hackers at least 3 times. Each time it cost me about $2,000 to get it back up. I've been criticized and ridiculed because I won't allow dealers to advertise on my forum, and they do it sometimes rather sneakily. So it's a challenge to keep those folks at bay. I would say that probably every day I probably reject 30 to 50 people that are trying to spam on my site. And I'll get 7 to 10 new people every day signing up. And I think that's the biggest challenge is every single day you've got to keep on top of it, because if you let one day go by, it'll just cannonball.
So as you peruse your information and your intelligence through the site, what do you find to be the most popular portions and sections of the website itself?
Well, this last year I made a decision to break out all the individual cookers. As we begin to get more and more hits, I started to see that it was harder to find content on the forum. So with my moderator, Bentley Meredith, we separated out all of the content between different brands of cookers. And I think that is one of the things that really made a big difference, because people that have a Traeger don't want to read about the Fast Eddy, and people that have the Fast Eddy don't want to read about Memphis and all the other pellet grills on the market. So they had their own little section so that they could all get together and talk about the issues and the goods and bads of their cookers and how they work better.
Another great forum, or another great thing about a forum, of course, is the fact that you can make connections with folks from all over the country, even into different countries. I mean, all over the world. Certainly, it's no different on your site, which is how this whole American Royal thing came to be. Tell us how that idea came about to go make a run at the American Royal Open Cook-Off this past weekend.
Well, I think what happened is that we have been connecting with a lot of manufacturers. I do allow manufacturers to openly discuss their products on my forum. And I think it finally came to a idea between Bentley, myself, and some manufacturers to put together a team for the Royal. So we put it together, and we've got several people from the forum and people from manufacturers to supply pits, including Eddy, and showed up at the Royal and put together a team. Bentley is an experienced cook and was the captain, and his sister, Kristen Meredith, is also a very experienced cook. She did the sides and the chicken, and they just kind of guided the team right through the gates.
So it's safe to say that the reaction from the forum members to get out there was, would you say, overwhelming, or even better than you had actually anticipated it might be initially?
I think a lot of the forum people are, I think the majority of our forum, I should say, is not competitor cookers. They're more backyard cookers. And I think a few of them want to come out and try it, and that was available to them. I'm a competitive cooker and have been for years, and to me, I don't understand why people don't enjoy it. But after each one, when you're exhausted, you can say, I see why people don't want to do this.
So how many people from the forum actually showed up? Did you get a head count over the course of the couple days?
I think we had about 6 that actually showed up, and some of those were from manufacturers. So we had a few that just stopped by. I think next year we'll probably have a little more turnout, because I think people are going to see that it's not as scary as they think it is.
Now, during the course of the Open Cook, I mean, was there any event, even maybe leading up to the actual event itself, was there even an entertainment of thought that this team of pelletheads.com would actually end up walking away with top 3 overall? I think that our moderator, Bentley, and Kristen had some idea that they were good enough cooks to do that.
But when you're dealing with the American Royal and you're dealing with judges, it's difficult to tell where you'll end up. I've competed for many years and won my share of contests, and each time I shake my head and I go, what did I do different than the last one that made me better this time? This time we were lucky. Everything came together. The product was good that we turned in. We had nothing to be ashamed of, and the judges liked it. So we were successful.
Larry Hill, site administrator of PelletHeads.com, joining me here on the show. Yeah, I was going to say, after the turn-ins were tasted, I mean, as a group, you have experience tasting what competition barbecue should taste like. Obviously, Bentley did too. But as a team, how did you feel about the chances after you had a chance to rate those turn-ins? And because of the size of the field, even though maybe you liked them, did you still kind of factor in that crapshoot because of the size?
Of course. I think you have to always do that. I thought the product that we turned in was respectable. I didn't feel that anything that we turned in wouldn't have been anything that I wouldn't have turned in on a contest. So I told all of the people on the site that we can't be ashamed of anything we turned in. We turned in good product. We turned in something that we could be proud of. And whether we're first or whether we're 500th, we did a good job.
And there you have it from October the 6th, 2010. I'm not going to lie, I'd love to get my hands on that very first Brisket Roundtable. Somewhere those shows are deep in a vault under lock and key. Do me a favor, send Greg an email at greg@thebbqcentralshow.com and tell him you want to hear that first 2006-2007 Brisket Roundtable. Hey, there's a whole lot more in this show. You can get to it over at thebbqcentralshow.com. There will be a link in the show notes to it. Take you right there to get the whole episode. While you're there, you know the drill. Subscribe to the Barbecue Central Show via podcast. Never miss an episode of this show or that show again. Thank you so much. Until next time, I'm your host, John Solberg. I look forward to talking to you again soon.